everyone, Paige here and welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be my monthly reading wrap-up and TBR videos. So let's go ahead and get started with what I read in November. So after the reading disaster that was October, I decided to take a different approach with my reading. In October, I don't think I finished a book, or if I did, I finished one book. So I decided to go ahead and replace my TV time with reading time. And so I read 1 hour every single day. That's usually all I have time for to watch TV with work, school, and all that fun stuff. So I took that time and it paid off. Now, I will say that some of the books that I read in 1 or 2 days. And some of them it took me... I started in September and I didn't finish until November. Yeah, it was a lot. I also listened to a lot of audiobooks this month, which was fantastic. There were a couple days where I had to bake or cook or something like that, and I listened to my audiobooks while I did that. And so there was like 2 or 3 hours where I was just listening to an audiobook. It was absolutely fantastic. I miss doing that. I need to do that more often. So in November, I read a total of 10 books, and I read some new books, and then I also kind of revisited some of my old favorites, and none of the books this month disappointed me. I chose to read more for comfort versus trying new things. There are a couple books in here that aren't normally what I would read, but most of them are. Just as a reminder, I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up to my most favorite. Like I said, I enjoyed every book. None of them disappointed me, so they're all 3.5 stars or above, and so I would recommend all of them if you are looking for something to read. And I'll kind of go over the genres and stuff too while I am at it. So my lowest rated book this month was Dawnbreaker by Jodi Meadows. This is the 3.5 star, so rounding it up to 4 that I read. It is the second book in the completed duology for Nightrender. It just came out, and I have been a Jodi Meadows fan since I was in high school. So whenever my local bookshop had it and she was there signing, I got it, I read it, I got it a signed copy. So that was very exciting. If you haven't read Nightrender, it's a morally gray character base. So a lot of the characters aren't the prince in shining armor. They're making decisions that wouldn't be seen as necessarily heroic, and that's kind of what a lot of Dawnbreaker is exploring, is the consequences of the actions that happened in Nightrender. I did review Nightrender, and I think it was my very first reading wrap-up video, all the way back in May. So if you have not read it before and you want to kind of see my review of Nightrender, you can go back and watch that video. I will try to remember to put the card up, but if not, it will be linked down in the comments. So Dawnbreaker was fun. It was a good read. I would recommend. There are parts of it that are a little slow, but then there are parts where it's like action, 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 action. So there are times where I was kind of struggling, but then most of the book was really, really good, and Jodi does a good job doing that. So next is one of the books that I had tried to read in October, and I just couldn't get through it, and it's not the book's fault. It was 100% me. I was in a reading slump. Let's just be real. I was in a reading slump in October, but this book is This Poison Heart by Kaylin Barron. So this book is, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's kind of like a modern fairy tale, in my opinion. A YA fantasy fairy tale type book, but it's not a retelling. So the main character, Bree, goes to an estate that was willed to her by her aunt, and she's always kind of known about these weird powers that she's had, and they just kind of keep coming more and more full while she is at this estate. And she meets some people from the town and meets a lot of, like, have some new friends and stuff like that. So it's really good, and it left itself on a good cliffhanger. I do have the second one that somebody gave me, so I'm gonna read that one next. I'm hoping I'm gonna read it in December, but we'll get to that. But if you're looking for something with diverse characters, not only is the main character a person of color, but she also is LGBTQ+. So it's really neat to read that and have multiple layers of diversity onto it, and it doesn't feel forced. So yeah, This Poison Heart, recommend. So my next book is going to be very brief, and that is because this is actually the book that I read for last month's Famous Writers in History, and that is Emma by Jane Austen. Overall, I would recommend this book. I had some minor issues with the character, but I understand why in the grand terms of character development. So if you want to see that full review, go to the Famous Writers in History. It's episode 2, and the review part is kind of more at the end because I didn't do Jane Austen's writing routine. I know it hurt me, but I just didn't have time to do that. I wanted to get the research done as well as I could, and I just ran out of time. But yeah, Emma. The next book I have is When I'm Dead by Hannah Morrissey. I am putting this book here because I like the different point of views. It's told through multiple point of views. The main characters are a woman and her husband, and then also a teenager. So the woman and her husband are, one's a police detective, one's a coroner, so they don't really have that much time for their daughter. And they're out of school play one night, and they have to leave midway through because a dead body was found, and it turns out to be a girl from their daughter's class who used to be her best friend. Right before they leave, their daughter says, "You'll love me more when I'm dead." And that's where the title of the book comes from, is When I'm Dead. Like I said, I like the different point of views in this book. I enjoyed the story of it. I did not guess who was the perpetrator. It's more of like a procedural mystery type book until closer to the end. I enjoyed it. Not sure I'm going to read it again. It's a little bit shorter of a book. It is just over 300 pages. So it's a quicker read, especially if you have a day to just kind of sit and read and mosey around. The chapters aren't that long. So the next 3 books that I read, and these are more comfort books. And these are actually, I didn't read them, I listened to them. They are audiobooks, and I'm going to list them in order because it is 3 books of the same series. So the first one is Poison Princess. The second one is The Endless Night, and the third one is Dead of Winter. And these are all by Christie Cole. They are part of the Arcana Chronicles. And if you've never read or listened to them, the premise of them is that the main character is a physical representation of a tarot card. And all of the main characters in this book, with the exception of one, are also. And they are put on the earth to play this grand game, and it's to the death. And the main character is kind of like, I don't think so. The biggest criticism I have of these books, and I overlook it because I did listen to them, like I'm pretty sure Poison Princess was one of the first books I got whenever I paid for Audible Premium when I was like in high school, is that Evie is kind of annoying. She's spoiled, and she's supposed to be that way, and yeah, I just don't always think that by the end of the books that she has done enough to kind of make up for where she was at the beginning. And Jack, one of the other main characters, is a walking red flag, but we don't seem to address that. There's a little bit of addressing it, but I don't think it's the greatest role model for teens. I say that as someone who listened to it as a teenager, but that's one of the great things about listening to books or reading books multiple times over the years, is that you get to experience them through different lenses. While I think, yeah, Jack is absolutely fantastic with his backstory, how Christie Cole develops that over the series, and how she develops Evie and her relationship with Jack, I don't think it makes up for it, but I'm still gonna say I recommend these books to try to look past that, because the world building is good in my opinion. I like the world building. It's set in an apocalyptic world. English. It's like fantasy mixed with dystopian. It's like fantasy mixed with dystopian. And I also adore tarot cards. So, yeah. But yeah, the Arcana Chronicles, I probably wouldn't recommend purchasing the audiobooks if you can get away with it. If you can get them from the library, that's what I would suggest. Definitely worth a read. I'm not 100% sure I would pay $15 to listen to them. Next, we have Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. I was very skeptical about this book because I had tried reading her other books that were the Romeo and Juliet retellings, and I couldn't get into them. I don't know if they're writing style, I don't know if it's world building, I don't know if it's just because it was Romeo and Juliet, and I don't like Romeo and Juliet. Very few people do, that I am finding out, except for the people who write about it. So this one is more of an Antony and Cleopatra, and if you remember from this summer, I had a little bit of a obsession with ancient Egypt. So that's kind of where this book came from. I got this in July, so it just took me a minute to read it. So this book actually gave me an idea for another story, so that's why it's partially ranked so high, is because I do think the world building in it's really good, and I like the characters in it. It was fast-paced, it was interesting, there's always something happening, there's very little downtime to make the reader uninterested. I am so sorry for yawning. So that's why I ranked it more towards the top. It was good. The main characters, there's like kind of three, but the one main, who's probably represented by this little lady down here, she is the daughter of a set of rulers, and she committed regicide, patricide, matricide, and she killed them, and then she ran away, and everybody thought she was dead. And then she is drawn from a lottery and allowed to play in this game, at the end of which she can go meet the king if she wins. And the other main character is a prince who is a cousin, and then finally you have a competitor. So I liked it. It was a quick read. I read it in a couple of days, and that's without just like reading for a long extended period of time. Like, I wanted to pick up the book every night before I went to bed. So the last audiobook that I listened to in the month of November was one of my all-time favorite audiobooks to listen to, and it's probably close to my all-time favorite book, but I am ranking it a little bit lower because out of all of the books I listened to / read this month, it was not like the one that was my absolute favorite this month. All time, yes. This month, no. And I hope that made sense. And that is Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. This is one of the books that I also had first gotten when I subscribed to Audible. If you guys didn't listen to my November goals video, my library account kicked me out, and then when I tried to put in my new library card, it didn't work. So I need to go down to the library to get that fixed so I can get all the audiobooks, but Spotify just opened theirs. So I have 15 hours this month to listen to something. And I also have all of the books that I collected through Audible, through various free trials that they have given me over the past couple of years. So yeah, I listened to Ella Enchanted. I love the narrator for this book, and I just love the story. I am such a fairy tale girl, and while Cinderella is not my favorite, I love this book. The 3 balls in it, mwah, I love it. And yeah, the story between Ella and Char is just absolutely fantastic. And I say this knowing that the movie is completely different, and I also love the movie, and I approach them as separate entities. I think that the movie was inspired by the book, but the movie is not the book. There are a lot of differences in it from the book and the movie. And if you're looking for something, if you want to research children's fiction, I would recommend anything by Gail Carson Levine. I have read multiple books by her as a child, as a teenager, and as an adult, and I find something new in them every single time. And like I said, Ella Enchanted is one of my all-time favorite books. I usually listen to it at least once a year, so I think if you look it up on Goodreads, on my time dates read, I think there's about 4 or 5 of them. since they started allowing you put different dates for each time you read a book. Yeah. So Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. If you haven't checked it out, please do. And if you have listened to it or read it before, tell me what you think. Do you think this also ranks as one of your top books of all time? If not, what is your top book of all time? I need suggestions. So next I have A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. I was excited. This was another November release. I think I might have come out in October. I don't know. But it is the last book in a trilogy that Stephanie Garber wrote that is still in the Caraval universe. And it is one of the few times that I have read something by an author who's done that where I have enjoyed it just as much as the first. So if you guys haven't read these books yet, it follows the story of Jax, who is one of the Fates, and Evangeline, who is a new character that was introduced in the first book. She is the main point of view. She is the main character, and Jax is just kind of also there. There's some parts on occasion that are told from his point of view, but they are very few and far between. So this is not a multiple point of view book. These are all told from Evangeline's. I love Stephanie Garber's writing style. It draws you in. It makes you forget that you're reading. And that's one of the reasons why I love these books. So, and it's also one of the reasons why it's ranked so high. So, A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. And last but not least, so this one, I hesitated on whether to rank this one at the top or Stephanie Garber's at the top because they were both very close for me. And this will not surprise many people because I'm sure this is on most people's reading wrap up, and I'm not going to go into it very much, just say that I really enjoyed it. But Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. The only criticism that I have of this book, and it's more of people's reactions to it, was talking about the ending of the book. I did not think it was as surprising as other people thought. There are multiple parts where if you look at it from a writer's standpoint, I have this problem, how am I going to fix it? And it makes sense to fix them that way. So that's my only criticism. There was nothing that like shocked me, like that turned my world upside down, that made me want to throw the book. Okay, a couple times I wanted to throw the book across the room, but that's just because Violet is like sometimes incredibly stupid, but we have to have that because we have to have angst. And I understand that. And I like it. That was my main criticism, was at the end of the book. I thought it was pretty, I don't want to say predictable, because I couldn't have been like, oh, this, and this is going to happen when I was like halfway through. But looking at it from a writer's perspective, it doesn't surprise me. So, like I said, Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I enjoyed it. It was a good read. It was fun. I read pretty much the entire day to get through it. Like I said, November was a fantastic reading month. It wasn't a fantastic writing month, but I think I needed the escapism through reading, not through writing. I read a lot. I enjoyed pretty much all of the books that I read. I'm looking forward to December. So let's go ahead and quickly, because I want to keep this video under 30 minutes, go through the books that I am going to read in December. And now moving on to December, my iPad is right here. I'm not going to grab the books just because I want to go through this as quickly as possible. But December, the rest of the year, is fully upon us. I am filming this on the 5th, which is the day before you will see it. And I currently have 12 books that I need to read before the end of the year. And it sounds crazy. It does. But doing the math, that's about a book every 2.5 days. And I'm very close to finishing some other books. So yeah, I can do it. But yeah, so my TBR pile for the December and the rest of the year, wrapping my head around that. I don't feel like 2024 should be upon us yet. But is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. What the River Knows by Isabel Ibáñez, which I've already started. And it is absolutely fantastic. I can already tell this is going to be in the top for December. And then None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, The Kingless Crown by Sarah M. Cradit, and then this is the Spotify book that I've been listening to. I started listening to it in November, and then I'm going to finish it up in December, and I might be able to start something. I think I'll have enough time left. And then Arcana Rising by Christie Cole, and that is another book in the Arcana series, if you couldn't tell by the title. And then Lightbringer by Claire Lagarde, and then this is one of the books that's been on my TBR for a very long time because I've read the first 2 books in the trilogy and I just need to finish the 3rd one. And then I have You Again by Kate Goldbeck, The Mystery of 3 Quarters by Sophie Hannah with characters inspired by Agatha Christie, The Truth About Forever by Sarah Dussin, This Wicked Fate by Kaylin Barron, then The Atlas Six by Olivier Blake. So those are the books that I am hoping to read in December, read/listen to. I know I sound crazy, but I'm gonna do it. I am going to hit my reading goal for this year. It's gonna be great, yeah. I know I could have hit it already. I did by this time last year, so I should be able to reach it. Especially my class, I submitted my final, so my class is over and I just have the holidays, which bring their own kind of chaos, but I don't have to be working on my class every day. So that time is going to be reading time. So that's all for me today, and it looks like I did successfully keep this video under 30 minutes. Yay. So that's all for me today. If you like what you see, please hit that like button. It helps other people find me, and I will see you guys all very soon with another video. Bye.